evening and welcome to the April meeting of the Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee. Call the meeting to order, and the first item of business, we need to approve the minutes from last month. Call on Vice Chairman Jeff Phillips.
Mr. Chairman, I move that they be approved as mailed.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item, we need to announce an alternate vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals. That vacancy is to replace Joe Michoto, the term set to expire October of 2012. Next, we need to announce 3 vacancies on the Linebaugh Library Board. Those vacancies are from Christy Lee, Nell Blankenship, and Nina Merritt. And then now we need to announce a vacancy on the Highland Rim Regional Library Board. That vacancy being of Ms. Nell Blankenship. And we also need to reappoint Judicial Commissioner Brandy Dover.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Is there a particular area that she's from, or is it just all over?
She's in Smyrna, and she did work with the General Sessions judge there.
That's fine.
It is signed by Judge Barnes.
Judge Barnes, okay.
Ms. Nolan, if you'd like to come up for the next item, and Mayor, if you want to, you can. We have a referral from the Budget Committee regarding establishing an audit committee. Commissioners, you remember we spoke about this a little bit last month, and I think we endorsed the concept, or maybe that's what we're doing tonight. I think you had a chance to look at some of these things, and just need to go over a few things, Ms. Nolan.
Well, I've attached a sample resolution, but there are some areas that I think that the committee needs to decide on. And first of all, what is, just to refresh your memory on establishing the audit committee, and kind of sum up what the purpose of the committee, and that is to provide an independent review and oversight of the government's financial reporting processes, the government's internal controls, and a review of the auditor's report, and following up on any corrective action in compliance with laws, regulations, and ethics. Now, while you have hired me to implement controls and to ensure that we are following these guidelines, how do you know I am? It all comes back down to it's the Commission's responsibility to ensure that these things are happening. So one way to do this is to set up an audit committee that will, one of the things that they'll be doing is to ensure that the auditors who audit us are without conflict of interest. And you will follow, after the auditors are done, they'll report to you, to this committee, and then it would be the committee's responsibility to follow up and make sure, let's say, I will use me as the example. There was an audit finding in the last audit that the Finance Department was not issuing pre-numbered receipts. Okay. We had a change in the way we were handling it. Instead of having a dot matrix, we were going to a laser and just going from that. And we have receipt numbers that are issued and printed whenever we issue the receipts. But through the auditor's process, realized that the employee could go in there and change that number. She didn't know she could.
Yeah.
It was the IT auditor. Where we didn't have the problem before is that the documents with the dot matrix had a control number on them pre-printed. So that was our control. We lost that control when we went to the laser. So what we did when it was brought to my attention that was, we had that issue, I was able to take our blank stock and put numbers on there until we could get the software company to fix it to where that number could not be released. Okay, so now while that's on face value, that sounds really terrible, but we fixed it. It would be your audit committees just to follow up and make sure that these corrective actions are done and taking place.
How often will this committee meet annually?
I've set up twice. The first time would be, let me find you the place, actually in the guidelines.
Attachment A, page 8.
Thank you. Overview of the first required, 2 meetings. Overview of the first required annual meeting, and that's where the audit committee will meet with the independent auditors upon the completion of the financial audit, which I told you that's around September. Part of the meeting will take place in private and without county management present to ensure communication between the independent auditors and the committee is not impeded. During the private part of the meeting, the committee will ask the independent auditors the following questions. And so we've given you the questions that you should be asking. You know, are you independent? You know, I won't read all of it, but that's what those are. So then you come to, it's all talking about the audit and the audit experience. And on page 10 is the overview of the second annual meeting. And this meeting will take place after the annual audit's released and will be a public meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to address any audit findings and noncompliance with generally accepted accounting principles, as noted by the auditors, with county management and ascertain the current disposition, so that I would be coming before this committee responding to the audit findings and explaining what I did to correct the issue.
Right now, if you didn't correct any of these things, it would come back
It'd be
as another write-up or whatever, or the next year.
A year later.
A year later.
A year later.
Right,
And
right.
see, this way, you would have it right after
Right.
and be on it, know
Well,
for yourselves that these things are done.
We haven't had issues, but this helps you with the state auditors.
It helps y'all.
It helps
It
us.
helps the commission fulfill their duties and ensure that I and other officials are doing our job.
I know we talked about once before, and I can't remember, but at first time, you talked about how many people on the committee.
Okay,
And I know,
Yes.
and I know I said something about actually having more
all right.
citizens.
These are, if we can just start at the top, these are some of the answers that I think you all need to debate and determine. One is how many should be on the committee. The guidelines require no fewer than 3. You can have more, but no fewer than 3.
What guidelines? These? or-
No, there's the audit, I've got them attached to here. It starts on page 2. These are the audit committee guidelines that the comptroller says you need to make sure that these things are in place.
So these exist in other counties?
No, audit committees?
Yeah.
No. No, actually, this came out, you've got a letter that was sent by the comptroller of September 2010 recommending that counties
Okay.
and local governments start establishing these audit committees. Now, they're recommending, but if they have a situation where a local government, not just counties, but cities, municipalities, if there is an issue, they will require an audit committee to be formed.
Okay.
So we're
And-
being
And
proactive.
those are the guidelines that they put together for the audit
Yes,
committee?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, that I think needs to be decided. How many members? What's the term? And the guidelines state that the terms should be staggered. And then here's the other one. Who are the eligible members? The guidelines say they have to be external to management. They must possess sufficient knowledge and experience in finance, business, accounting to discharge the committee's duties. The members may be members of the governing body, citizens of the local government, or a combination of both. But again, in the very first section, what is the purpose? And the purpose is to provide an independent review and oversight. So just keep independent, independent, independent. So now how are you going to ensure that the committee is independent? So I've just put some bullet points on here to think about. Now, in what I proposed, number of members is 5, with two commissioners, 1 school board representative, 1 highway representative, and then the person at large. And I recommend that person at large be a CPA, either retired, either active or inactive, because there's a part in here that says that you've got to demonstrate that people on the committee. Okay, let me find that one. one of these might have some red on it. Well, I'll come back to that. Let me just come back to
That's on page 2,
that.
the member should possess sufficient knowledge and experience in finance business account to discharge the committee's duties.
No, there's
Is it
one.
more than that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's, number 4 is the next. Shall address financial and other.
Oh, yeah, that was section
Just the
2.
red one.
Yeah, it's my red. Thank you. What page was that to? Thank you. That was it. That's external to management. Submitted to approval. Let me just flip through.
You got the one in red.
Yeah, I got my one in red.
While you're flipping to that though, and keeping our concentration on independent review and oversight, independent review, we wouldn't, under 3 here, members of the governmental body, we probably wouldn't want a member of the governing body or the local government to be
No.
involved in this.
No, I think you do. Wait a minute, are you saying like commissioners?
Yes.
I'll say, I think that you do.
Independent review and oversight, independent review.
I mean,
Independent of the finance department.
Well, I
Independent
understand that,
finance.
yes,
All of us.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
now, I'm gonna just,
But since it's within our own, so to speak, financial department of a budget that we've approved or whatever.
it's processes.
Yeah,
It's processes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this out to you, Jeff, and we'll
Okay.
talk about this one later. I may have one more back. When I say independent, I'm thinking members on the committee should be independent of the workings of the government. And, so, could a member be employee? Go back to how I had written the resolution, is that I kind of put in there that you could not be an employee of the county. So a commissioner who's an employee could not serve. And I'm talking about a commissioner who, when I'm saying the county, I'm saying all 3 areas, road, highway, and commission. And go on to the next one, about the employee spouse. Could not, like a spouse of an employee could not serve. Or somebody that, somebody who's on the committee who commingles funds, their personal funds should not be. So if you start with somebody, that they're board members, well, if the board member, commission, if they work for any of those, they could not serve, or should not serve. Or if they have a spouse, they should not serve. Because my whole thought is we're trying to get this as an independent, away from the county, so that if somebody, because not only is this audit committee serving as oversight for the county, it's also a mechanism, these people are out there for reporting of fraud, waste, and abuse. And I felt like people would rather come to somebody who has no connection whatsoever to the inner workings of government than that one who, so-and-so has a relationship with somebody else. I don't feel comfortable coming to them because they might not be independent. So I've kind of given you a list, and when you start
Yeah.
doing all that, and see, there's another piece to this, is if you say somebody on the committee cannot be actively employed, what is your feeling when they move to retired status and they're no longer an employee? Do you feel like they would be independent? Could they be independent? Now, I've spoken to 2 different people, one with CTAS and one with the Comptroller's Office, and they have 2 separate views on that issue. And one of their position is somebody who's retired from the county, understands how county government works. They would bring forward a lot of experience. They're retired. They really would have no conflict. The other viewpoint is they've been with the county for so long, they've got relationships, and there could be a conflict. So, to me, that's one issue that you amongst yourselves need to decide. And when you start looking at the list, who can, who can't, depending on how strict you are.
Excluding retirees, people with X's are eligible.
Exes are eligible.
Okay. That's still a lot, folks.
It is. Now, I also recommend that one of the people be a CPA. And that, I remember it is now. It's section 4 on page, it's page 6 of your document. You get to that. And this is in the resolution establishing it. The committee shall have access to the services of a financial expert, either through a committee member, that's where I was trying to get that in, or an outside party engaged by the committee for this purpose. Such financial expert should, through both education and experience, and in a manner specifically relevant to the county government sector, possess, 1, an understanding of generally accepted county principles, financial statements. These things, items 1, 2, 3, somebody holds the designation of a CPA by them holding that designation. That's pretty clear that they understand these things, especially if they are a government auditor. Steve, you asked in our last meeting where we would find somebody. I found 2 today, people who would serve. I don't mind telling you who they were. I talked to Paul Long, you know, because definitely he's a CPA auditor, especially knows government.
Yeah.
He's outside this government
Yeah.
and doesn't have any link.
Working with CUD?
CUD is not our government. I mean, there's not, but he's not connected.
Yeah, as far as the board members, we do, yes.
But he does not work for Rutherford County.
No. He's not under our
And you're not responsible for Consolidated Utility District. It's an independent local government.
But his wife works at trustee's office, doesn't she?
No.
Retired.
She
She retired?
I mean, that was just,
I mean,
I was just trying to
I'm
find
not-
options.
And
Options
when I
for
bring
you.
it up, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to
No, we don't want to
downplay
debate
Paul.
people, but don't debate people.
I'm just saying that.
I also spoke to,
Why does the mayor have to appoint the members? I mean, confirm the appointments on the board over there. If we don't got nothing to do with it, why is it
It's
that
the
way?
way, when that was charted, that was put in the initial document.
but it is like the city of Murfreesboro. It is a separate local governmental unit from us.
But the point she's making, there are adequate supply of people to find the properly qualified CPA that has had this experience in
Yeah.
internal accounting and audit committee functions and those kinds of areas. They're there. We're
Right, they're in our
comfortable.
community.
They're here in our community.
Paul
So
had been
I just kind of posted.
finance director before, and so,
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
there's
he's
probably
one,
a
and
couple of
then-
others that have been that probably may be interested.
There is,
That would be good.
There's a gentleman that is over the Board of Accountancy who lives in Rutherford County. I mean, is over all the accountants, making
Yeah.
sure we follow all
Yeah.
the rules. I mean,
Yeah.
he lives in Rutherford County. And then I contacted, I belong to 2
And
organizations.
probably up on the new standards
Oh,
and
sure.
new things that come along every year.
I
yeah.
belong to another organization, Association of Governmental Accountants, which I asked them to tap into their database to give me those people who are members of that organization who live in Rutherford County. So I think there will be ample supply for people to serve that role. And just contacting Sue too, and it's like, yeah, nobody else will do it.
Well,
They would do it.
Let me ask this, I mean, I think this is a good idea. Do we need to, tonight, do we need to have a motion where we can put this in place? That way we can advertise?
Well, no, first of all, I think y'all need to, I mean, okay, another piece to this is when we get all these parts, this front page are things that I think you need to hammer out as a committee. After that, we get the resolution with these pieces in it.
Okay.
Then the resolution has to be sent to the comptroller's office, and they have to
They're approved.
approve it prior to it being adopted by the commission.
You have to get this resolution containing these answers to these questions in such a form that you can recommend it to the comptroller's office for their review and approval. Then when they do that, you bring it back and officially adopt the process.
When's your next audit?
My auditors are here now, but they're doing their interim work. My goal to you, what I would ask that your goal is to have it in place in August,
Okay.
at the very latest.
I don't know about the committee, but
We can do that.
I know you said something about you'd like to say 5 members on this. I'd like to see it be 7 with 2 additional citizens. That way I think there's 3 citizens on there. I think
Okay.
your
Good.
recommendation was 1, right? I'd like to see it be 2 more with a total of 3. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know what the full committee would be.
What's the recommendation of the state?
More than 3.
More.
No, minimum of 3.
Minimum of 3.
At least 3, and y'all can decide. So those are the pieces that, this is something that y'all will have to decide on. I would, as a strong recommendation, because you've got to determine that of the independents, and I would recommend that you make sure that whoever's on it are not employees,
Right.
don't have spouses who are employees, or commingle. And
Well,
I
they,
can't tell you, because I don't have, I can speak both sides of the fence on the retired employee.
Are they paid?
Yes, I would recommend that they be paid. I mean, you're only talking two meetings, unless there is something really substantial that, they may have to have it, but really, that's just 2 meetings that they need to,
Unless you're arrested.
Unless
And
I'm
they probably
arrested.
meet again.
yes.
We stagger terms, 2-year intervals or 1 year. We do boards and commissions at 1 year, don't we, at some occasions?
There are different ways, they're not all exactly
We
the
could
same.
set it up, say 2 and 4, which is, by the way, another reason maybe to have more than 5. We might want to stagger them out as much as 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Well,
I'm
maybe,
just-
I wouldn't maybe go 4 or 5, but maybe 3 years, and you could set up terms 1, 2, and 3 years
Yeah.
on your initial group. Or you could make it coterminous with the commissioners.
commission.
County commission's term, 4 years.
Every 4,
Yeah,
That's what it is on planning commission.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could make it just a straight up 4-year appointment.
But would they do it? I mean, it would be, well,
Every-
I mean,
Might not
now
want
you've got to
4 years,
stagger.
yeah.
They wouldn't be staggered, but they recommend staggering, so they must be staggered to what you've written here.
Should be staggered.
So we'd have to stagger them, so it couldn't be coterminous with the commission then necessarily.
You could have the commissioners serve.
The commissioners could serve
together.
Their term,
their term,
Yeah.
and the other people would be
off
ongoing.
years.
Yeah. You'll have to work that out precisely so you can get that language in here just the way you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners could actually serve kind of the way they do in the planning commission.
That would be a 3-year term then
Initially,
on the group of commissioners.
Right.
And then he could go to 4
then you could have your other group.
at 2.
Really, we need to put this
And
in
then-
this year's budget.
Yeah.
So we're really talking about July 1 then, having it ready. we
Well,
can-
we
well,
can
June.
go ahead and put it in the budget. I just need to know how many members.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think
What do
that's-
What do you need tonight?
Well, these are the answers that y'all need to decide, and
All right.
if you want to
7
take it under.
7 committee members? Is that too many?
Just put a motion, Gary, and see what happens.
Well, I was writing something down here. What about, all right, 7 members, 2 county commissioners, that would be their full term, would be serving. 3 of them would be citizens at large. Then there would be the Board of Education member, the Highway Department member, the,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's it.
is that it?
And
Okay.
and
And the,
is the financial expert one of our citizens?
Well, it just said, and one to be,
Okay.
one to be.
Yeah,
So
and I
you may
guess-
have a commissioner who is a CPA at some time,
right,
you know, that could fill
Okay.
that role.
and then,
Just brainstorming, Mr. Chairman, if we had 3 citizens at large, couldn't we designate one of those must be, have CPA credentials?
Well, I
and-
think the way in the resolution,
And would it not make sense for that person to serve as chairman of that committee? Wouldn't it?
it wouldn't have to be.
If you designated those qualifications for at least that one particular person, independent, outside of the family of government, to me, that would make more sense that person would, in essence, would be designated as chair of that committee. Just makes sense to me, but I'm not.
they would have the qualifications to.
Well, I mean, all of y'all could chair a committee. I mean, if y'all were on this committee, I mean, I don't think that that the CPA would have to chair it.
I'm not sure that they would.
No.
To me, it would just to me, it makes sense that they would, but I guess it's something that doesn't have to be.
I've got in
Might be
here,
something we want to leave the committee the
Yeah,
freedom to come up with.
That's the reason I said brainstorm.
You may have a really great accountant and a really, really bad chairman.
true,
She structured it, proposed that the committee would, at their first meeting, elect the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. But
And
it
I've
can be
got
changed.
one, and I just put on here, one of the members, and I didn't know I used to say must or should. One of the members should be a certified public accountant, and that just left it. You know, if you go to 7, you've got ample opportunity. You know, if there's not a CPA on any of the boards, then definitely it would be, that's what you would be asking for whenever you put it out, that you need to,
You should put must.
must.
Let me throw this out on the table as well, that the term limit, or the term would be, one of the citizens would have a 1-year term, another citizen would have a 2-year term, and another citizen would have a 3-year term, and then the Board of Education would have a 1-year term, and the Highway Department would have a 2-year term. That way it kind of be staggered. Or did you already have that?
No, I didn't know how to do that.
She just said they would all have staggered 4-year terms, is the way she had it.
Yeah.
Okay,
proposed.
well, somebody's gonna have to be put in, I guess, in a place where.
What about their initial term?
Right, their initial
The
term.
initial terms, and so that, then after that initial term, then somebody would serve 3
Would be-
years, 4 years,
I
2 years?
think that's a minute detail that could be worked out. After it got into the cycle, it just wouldn't be an issue.
I mean, I was wondering, because I thought maybe, were you needing that information tonight, in the motion or not?
Does that need to?
Well, the more you get done tonight, the better off you are, but you've got time to iterate on this another meeting or 2 if you want to.
Is 4 years too long? I don't know.
Or 3 years may be too long, I don't know.
I think 4-year terms, a lot of times if you're new to a committee, it takes you a while. If you're only gonna meet twice a year, it'll take you a couple of
Yeah.
years to really get knowledgeable enough to really get into the process, I'd say. And then I think you'd have some opportunities for reappointments at some particular time, but, you know, I'd just hate to see, you know, you can only serve a 2-year term. I think all of them should be 4 years, and they could be staggered on the 2 and 4, kind of equally throughout that process, so. And
These
on-
come back to us, just like Pier Board and Library Board and everything, it comes back to steering. Okay.
I would, you know.
Well, the first time you might want the terms to expire, the first one at the end of the commissioner's term, 3 more years, and
That's right.
thereafter, everything would be on a 4-year cycle. The
I think
staggered
if
4-year
I think if we
term.
just put that in that, let's just say we were into our first year of a 4-year cycle, and then just appoint everyone according to that. The citizens that would be serving a staggered term would actually only serve 1 year before they would be eligible for reappointment. So that would be, and then when they're reappointed, it'd be a full 4-year term, and that would go through that next election cycle.
So with the 3, just so I understand, the 3 citizens initially serve 1 year?
No, I think you could even stagger those by.
Like saying 1, 2, 3?
Mhm.
And then-
No, I'd say you do it 2 and 4. And let's just say that we already had the committee in place, okay? There would be 3 of the members or 4 of the members that would be, whose terms would be expiring next year. And there would be 4 whose terms would be expiring 2 years from now.
Okay.
So when you appoint it, you just appoint for 1 year and then for
Oh,
3
I see.
years.
For this first
Okay, I
rotation,
got you.
yeah.
And then
I
the
got you.
second rotation, it's different than that.
Okay.
So when those 3 or 4 that was on the staggered term expired next year, and let's just say they applied for reappointment and all of them reappointed, it'd be for 4 years. And they would go through that commission cycle that way. So that would be the staggered terms. It wouldn't be a difficult thing to do.
And the commissioners would be up in August of 14. Yeah, so you got 3 remaining years left.
And even going through that first year, maybe those that were, could give us, that were eligible for maybe reappointment, could give us some feedback as to how they saw it and maybe even make some recommendations for update the cycle and those kinds of things. So it shouldn't be that difficult a thing to do. If you got 7, you just have 3 and 4.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll try to, would there ever be a problem? And I'm just thinking about the school board who already does 3 and 4 year terms. If it could, I mean, you know, you do, they're off cycle.
They're off cycle, they're not the same cycle of the commissioners.
So you could have a.
Road board is too.
and
They're
road
off,
board.
yes.
If you try to do it with their term, because I was thinking somebody is
Yeah.
4 and then halfway through that's their election year. Or do you just deal with it? If
Well,
it happens?
Well, actually, if that, excuse me, Mayor, if that's the case, you're probably going to be 2 years on Board of Education Highway, because up until August, they're going to be in their 2-year, no, they're not. They're only going to be a 1 year because some of them were elected in last
Do you have
August.
them serve 2 years? Do you
Yeah.
have commissioners serve 4 years?
Yeah,
And the other ones serve a 2-year term?
because it's going, being that they're in the middle of the commission's term, there's going to be only 2 years.
Well, why don't you give Ms. Nolan a little bit of flexibility on determining how we put in place staggered terms based on the makeup, whether it's a school board, highway board, or what have you, and these independent citizens. And let her bring that sort of back restructured and worded in such a way that you can sort of review it next time. With 7 members, I think you need to go ahead and sort of tell her that you want to put 7 members on there and then let her structure her language around that.
And if that is what they recommend, 2 from the county, 3 citizens,
Right.
1 board, 1 highway.
Just
If that
recommend
is
the
what y'all
composition of
recommend.
those 7, and let her work the language out somehow with Mr. Cope and others on how we get those terms right.
Might do the initial term as 1 year, but I think in general, I think Commissioner Phillips is right. The person's term, other than the initial, if that's necessary for this, probably ought to be at least 2. I mean, I would think.
I couldn't agree more, and if you wanted to start off like that, I think that's fine, and we can see how it went for a few years, and you could always change those qualifications and even that rotation if you wanted to. But I do think that it's an opportunity for more citizens at large to serve, and I think that would be, if we're looking for transparency and those types of things, I just think that's a smart move. 7 may be too many to get anything done, I don't know, but I think it's probably a good way to start.
I mean, I'm agreeing with 7. As your point, the more citizens on the board
Right.
to review.
We do have a motion on the floor, but no second.
What was the motion?
7-member committee with 2 commissioners to serve for their term, 3 citizens at large, 1 Board of Education member, 1 highway committee member, with 1 member to be a CPA and no member to be a county employee or spouse of a county employee.
And also in my motion, let it be that when the mayor has recommended that,
With Lisa to
Lisa's
provide
order.
structuring.
right, for the terms.
For the terms.
Or someone who commingles funds.
What else do we need to have in here?
I think that's it. Because that then takes.
Right, that was all these, right?
Mhm.
What about retired employees? We need to cover that in the motion, or was it a go?
I didn't cover that, I didn't.
I think since she sort of
I
got
think we
two
leave-
different viewpoints, just sort of leave that open
Yeah.
until y'all have
Okay.
a little bit more discovery time on that, and then you can sort of refocus on it if you need to.
There's your base. and then you
Don't
can-
exclude them yet,
Yeah.
until you talk about it and think about it, maybe.
All right, we've got a motion. Do we have a second on that?
Would that motion include bringing back the resolution next month?
You've got a resolution, I just gotta, fix section 2 that
So-
talks about that part.
Bring back the updated resolution. We can use this month to read what Lisa's got there. So bring back the updated resolution and us be prepared to move on it or not.
Okay.
Is that, do you have a second?
Do we
Commissioner
have a
Gordon?
second? Okay. A motion and second. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
She's gonna
passes.
change that in section 2 to must. And then the rest of the tweaking it together.
Thank you, Lisa, for getting down in front of this. Some counties probably won't, but thank you for doing that.
Which one?
I would agree with you.
Any other business? Seeing none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
See y'all next week.